Hello everyone, welcome to today's edition of my SPY chart review. Um, Not a lot to go off of today. I didn't make any trades, any real money trades. There was, hey, we gapped up pretty big and really didn't get much of a pullback. Not a lot of opportunity to get in today. Probably the best opportunities may have been like right here off of a couple doji. Um, Not really. Right here we had a bullish automy, but wasn't really too many good opportunities to get in. You see, we didn't really have any. We had a Maribozu here. Um, Not a lot. We didn't really play around near any support or any resistance levels today. The closest we came to any real support levels was right here. And then the 285. I mean, yeah, that offered a little bit of resistance, but we didn't really play around much near there either. We popped above it here, and then we dropped below it, and then we kind of played with it on this candle, but just not really anything that looked enticing enough to jump in. Um, I'm a big fan of pivot points, and when you have a day like, let's go back to Friday, or even today, tomorrow's going to be the same way. Look at the big gap up. We went from 280.80 to 282.50 and closed at around a 280.60 or 280.70 range. When you have a large movement like that, the next day your pivot points are, just because of the mathematical calculation, your pivot points are spread out a lot further apart. That makes it a little bit harder to trade when you trade the way that I do, using pivot points so much, when I rely on them so much. You see, we had a pivot point at 283.80 and another one at 285.50. So we had almost $2 range in between pivot points for me. That makes it tough to trade. Now, in between here would have been a little bit better, but when there's such a range in between your pivots, trading pivots the way I do, relying on pivots the way I do, it makes it hard to get an entry. So tomorrow is going to be the same way, because we're up, $3 from Friday's close. So tomorrow we're going to have a wide range in our pivots here. So and not that I'm complaining about that, because I'm in charge this week at work, and I'm really busy with work stuff, so I'm not really paying a lot of attention to the charts in the market this week. I wouldn't be surprised if I don't make any trades this week, just because I'm just kind of too busy with work stuff. But I'll still do a review at the end of each day. I did make a few paper trades today, and it wasn't anything that I'm gonna really. It was a lot of testing, and a lot of it didn't work out that well. I shouldn't say a lot of it. It was probably 50-50. Half of them worked, half of them didn't. I had one SPY trade for a loss, one SPY trade for a win. I traded. Let me take a look here. Traded Twitter for a nice win, Square for a loss, Spotify for a loss, Shop I'm just about even right now, Netflix for a pretty good size loss, Facebook for a loss, Alibaba for a nice win, and I'm up pretty good on Apple right now. So it's more not really experimenting. I'm just testing some things that I'm working on for that. So not really going to get in too much into those until I get it dialed in. But basically, what I was looking at was the same type of things that I do for SPY. For Spotify, let's take a look here. Spotify, I think I actually traded it a couple times today. Let me see here. I got in spot. I got in at 10:21 in calls, so I got into calls right about here. Paid $1.75, and I sold them at 10:25 right here. I got in right about here based off this bullish engulfing candle. I got in right at the open of this candle, and I stopped out down here. You see, it would have worked if I would have been more patient, waited for it to come back to here. But in my defense, I was also trading about 4 different ones at the same time, and I just couldn't watch them all. And I was just kind of, I should have focused on 1 or 2 rather than just jumping in a bunch of them. I think at one time I was in 4 or 5 trades. They were all paper trades, but yeah, that's just, if I would have focused more on 1 or 2, it would have been a lot better. But anyway, that's kind of what happened with that one. Let's see, one Alibaba. I got in Alibaba at 11:01. I got in calls. I'm sorry, I got in puts at 11:01. So I got in puts way back here. I got in puts after this bearish engulfing candle. So I got in puts right after the open of this candle. You see, obviously, I was down for a little while right here. And my stop out was a close above this candle, because your technical stop out on an engulfing is a close above, on a bearish engulfing, a close above the higher of the 2 candles. We did pop above that, but we didn't close above it. So I stayed in the trade, and I sold. I had 2 contracts. I sold one at 2:34 p.m., which would have been right at the end of this candle, about here. I sold one there for $1.85. My entry was $1.58. I sold one at $1.85 just to get 10%, and the other one I sold at 2:58 p.m., which would have been right at the end of this candle. And the reason I sold this one was because it's a spinning top. It's not really a doji, it's a spinning top, and it looked like we might get a little bit of reversal there. So I decided to go ahead and sell the other one. That's how that worked out. Yeah, the other trades, I'm not gonna go into all of them, because like I said, it was more or less testing. This wasn't near a resistance level like I like to play. I've said before that I like at least 2 signals. I only had 1 signal here, but it was just something I was trying out, trying to be a little bit less conservative. And in this instance, it worked. And some of the other ones it didn't. But that's why you paper trade. You try this stuff out and see how it does for you. So let's go back to the SPY chart. Like I said, we didn't really have anything that looked good. No real pullbacks to support levels. Like I said, this wasn't even a pullback to support here. We came back to 284.40, 284.50. And you could call 284.50 a support level, but I'm not going to rely on it. Just a single mental support for my support. If we would have been closer to the 100 here, it might have been a different story. But we never pulled back to the 100. We never pulled. We did pull back to today's open right here, but today's open, I don't put a lot of weight into that one. So really not much. Didn't really give us much today. I mean, you look at today's, we're up 250, 300 points, and you think, oh, it was such a great day, but if it doesn't offer you any entries, where do you get in at? So a lot of times I just sit out on these days. These days that we have big, huge runs, a lot of times I don't get in them because I'm not going to chase them. And if it doesn't offer a nice entry that I'm comfortable with, then I'm just not going to get in it. So, that being said, I didn't make any real money trades today. Take a look at the daily chart. We got a real nice gap here now. So I can move this gap up. The low of the day was 284.40. So let's change this to 284.40. And the high of this one was 282.84. What did I say it was? 282.84. So that's our gap that we have to play with now. Problem is that's such a big gap. You don't want to enter calls here, a pullback to here, because your stop technically is here. That's too big of a range. That's 284.30. That's $1.50 gap. That's just too risky to try to play that gap. So for all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, this gap is pretty much irrelevant for me when it comes to trading, just because it's too big of a gap. I may trade calls off of this level, off a bounce of here, but I'm not trading calls here. This is just too much of a gap. Now, one thing you can do is you can go back and look at, let's say, an hourly chart. When you have a big gap like that, $1.50 gap, let's take a look at an hourly chart and see if we see any resistance or support levels in that range. So our gap fills from here to here. Not much. I mean, you might be able to call this a resistance level at 284.86, but that's actually above the gap fill, so that's not... there's really nothing in between there on the hourly. We could take a look at the 30-minute. Let's see if we see anything on the 30-minute that would show some type of support or resistance in here. Not really seeing anything there either. You might be able to call this a support level of 284.10, just because we touched it here. We got somewhat close to it here, and pretty close to touching it here. Now you can go back further. You can go back, but we really haven't been this high for a while, so you'd have to go way back. Back in here, gap fills. Maybe to try to find something, you might be able to call this a support / resistance at 283.83. Not very strong, but it is. It could be counted as one. Yeah, so not. You might be able to count this as one. The support level 283.50. So you can do stuff like that. You can go back and look at different time frames for support resistance levels. I don't put as much weight in them because it's kind of like you're hunting for one, trying to find one. And when you're doing that, you're kind of, in a way, you're almost grasping at straws. So I wouldn't put a ton of faith or reliability in these, but it's just something else you can do. If you have a big gap like that or a big range, you can go back and look at different time frames and look for a support or resistance level. And sometimes you'll find one that really stands out. You might find one that maybe it's acted as support a week earlier on three different occasions it offered support, and that might not be a bad one to go off of. Use that as your support that would fill in between this gap here. So just something else you can do. Another little trick. Go back to the 5-minute. I probably wouldn't go any less than a 5-minute chart when I'm trying to find the support level, because when you get down to 1 minute, 3 minute, I don't rely on support resistance on the 1 or 3 minute charts. They're just too short of time frames. There's too much jumping around. There's too much movement, and I just don't think the masses. And let's face it, what we're doing here is trying to figure out what the masses are going to do, and you're trying to predict what everybody else is going to do. And if not many people are using 1 and a 3 minute, then why would you? Not saying don't use it as trading, but if not many people use it as support resistance, then I'm not going to use it as support or resistance. If my 1 minute chart shows support at a certain level, but nobody else sees that as support, well, then it's not going to do much good. So you see what I'm saying there. But it's going to be a pretty short video today, because like I said, there wasn't too much that we could go off of. Charts just didn't give us anything today, and like I said, that was fine with me, because I have a busy week this week, so busy with work, so I'm not gonna be upset if I don't get any trading in. Let's go back and look here. This is a daily chart. Probably the next level of resistance is going to be 288.78 area on this candle here, and I don't think that'll be a huge resistance level. After that, we're up here around the 292.50. 292.50, which would be the top of this candle, and then the 293.94, which I believe is the highs, all-time high. Go on a weekly chart and see what the all-time. Yeah, 293.94 is the all-time high. Are we going to get there this week? I don't know. Sure, nobody knows the answer to that. I think there's a very good possibility we do. Trying to go to a daily chart, and I keep going back to the 5 minute. I think there's a pretty good chance we get to that level, at least to 290 this week, unless some kind of news comes out that shuts this run down. But there's no reason why we couldn't get there. I don't like how big this gap fill is, but that's still going to offer support. It's just not really that tradable for me. But our stochastics are looking good. Let's check out the weekly chart. I don't usually look at the weekly chart, but just trying to see if I see anything that says hold up here or anything. And we're looking good here. We just popped above this high from a couple weeks ago. Aren't really anything stopping us till we get to here. Maybe a little hiccup at 293, and then closer to 294 on the weekly. So not much to really slow us down other than news till we get to those levels. Yeah, I still have this cough. I'm just trying to get over it, but that's pretty much it for today. Like I said, I didn't even really even look at my SPY chart today. I had other charts up, and I really didn't even think about making a real money trade today. So might not do it at all this week, because like I said, I am busy with work, so I don't have a lot of time to really look at charts this week. So but that's about it. Not much of a teaching moment today, teachable moment, because there's not really we have, this is what created this gap fill here from today, but so you can't count this, because this technically wouldn't be here until after the close today, but I already moved it. But we had nothing. About the only thing you could have traded today would maybe be a 310 EMA cross, and you wouldn't want to trade puts here because the market's up so high. It makes it tough to. I don't like to counter trend trade. We had a cross to the upside. Trying to see where this one was. Why it's not showing. There should be a 310 cross to the upside, but I'm not. Oh, there it is. Okay. Couldn't see it when I zoomed out further. 310 cross here, but you probably wouldn't have got in till here, and you probably would have ended up stopping out. So 310 cross there wouldn't have really played out too well for you. You would have had a 310 cross to the downside here. I wouldn't have traded it to the downside, but you probably could have made maybe 5-10% off of puts here. Cross to the upside, but then we came up and right back down. This one crossed to the downside. Now this would have been a good one to cross to the upside here. Cross to the upside here, your entry would have probably been right here at the open of this candle, and this one would have played out good for you. But I try not to trade the 310 crosses or any moving average crosses, just because moving average lines are they're lagging. So a lot of times by the time you get in it, the run's halfway over or 3/4 over, but you don't know that. That it could run all day, and you're getting in on the third candle of the run and think you're chasing it, and it could run all day. So you don't know that until it's done. But you already have a run here and then a cross. I just don't. That's why I don't really trade the crosses that much. But there are people that I know that trade based on this cross. They would have got in here, and I know a couple ways of figuring out your exits. One is a close below the 3 EMA, which this would have been real close. I probably wouldn't have stopped out on this if I played it that way, because it's like almost right on it. This would have been a close below the 3 EMA, so this would have been a stop out. Some play a close below the 10 EMA, which would have been this candle, so you would have stopped out at the close of this candle. And some stay in it until the 3 EMA crosses below the 10 EMA, which would have happened right here. So your exit would have been right at the close of this candle or open of this candle. So it's different ways to play it. Find what works for you and stick with it. But that's about it for today. Hopefully tomorrow offers something a little bit better to get in. If not, I'm not going to push it. So if anything, maybe do some paper trading tomorrow. But like I said, I'm busy with work, so it might not happen. But anyway, see everyone tomorrow, and good trading, and I hope everybody had a green day. Bye.